Our final speaker is Lydia Chilton, who's an assistant professor of computer science here at Columbia Engineering, who'll be speaking about AI tools for design and innovation. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you, Courtney. I'm going to jump right in. So I teach and study the design process, which is how to find and build innovative solutions. And over, I see the huge misconception that students and some of the rest of us have, which is I'm going to come up with a brilliant idea, I'm going to build it, and it's going to be great. If that works, great, but often it doesn't because ideas are so risky. And when something's risky, you want to diversify. So really, the best way to have a great idea is to have a lot of ideas. And that is what the design process helps people do. Develop multiple ideas at once. And it's pretty simple. You first brainstorm a broad set of ideas. Have to be broad, because if you're brainstorming the same idea, it's not actually getting you multiple. And then you want to prototype some of them and test them, see which ones are sort of working, which ones aren't. And the ones that are working, you improve on until you finally get to an iteration that you can launch. So this is great. This definitely works. It's used all over to do innovation. The one problem is that it is a ton of work. Brainstorming, hundreds of ideas is a lot harder than brainstorming one. Prototyping things is just really tedious, and then improving them may involve skills that you don't have. And so we see, even though everyone agrees this is sort of the right approach, we see people fall back to the let's just have one idea and really hope it works out. And so I want to help this process. How can AI make us all better designers? I'm going to talk about a case study of one particular problem. This is a graphic design problem called visual metaphors. So this is the cover of The Economist, and the message they're trying to convey is Brazil takes off. And to do this visually, they have a symbol of Brazil blended with a symbol of something else, a rocket taking off. This can be used in advertising. So this is about Tabasco is hot, that blends the Tabasco bottle symbol with a symbol of something that looks hot. And then it's also used in public service announcements. This is a message for global warming. The earth is melting. So I picked this problem because it's simple enough, but hard enough. It actually really does require creativity. You're not going to just get this on your first try. And if you Google for creative ads, this is the kind of thing that comes up over and over again. So that's what makes us think this really requires some design, some creativity, some innovation. But they're used all over the place. So then the question becomes, how can AI help design these in particular? So before I introduce the AI, I had to sort of come up with a workflow. What are the basic processes of brainstorming, prototyping? How does this get realized? So here's a quick example. If you're trying to make a visual metaphor for Starbucks in summer, what do you brainstorm? Well, you brainstorm the associations, the possible symbols that you might use for both these things. The logo, the Frappuccino, sun, swim. So I'm only showing a couple, but you really want lots of these, 20, 30, as many as you can. And then with these, what does a prototype entail? Well, it means it's what are the main features and how can we recombine them? So here we see the sun and the green Starbucks logo, those are both kind of round, so that works. This is a prototype. It sort of gets the idea across, but then we have to improve it. And improving it means looking at sort of these secondary features like its color and maybe where its edges are to come up with something a little bit more polished that gets those secondary aspects right. Anyway, so this is the general workflow. And we've implemented this, and you can see, you got brainstorming, you have, finding and labeling parts, and you can indeed come up with many different ideas. Like the Starbucks and sun is one, but the watering can and the cup is another, the Frappuccino and the popsicle. These can go on and on. So you are getting multiple ideas, and you get to pick the best one. They're not all great. Some of them are great, but that's the whole point, is to have a lot, because that increases your chances of coming up with a good idea. But as we said, this process is still hard. So with brainstorming, how can we help people do this? Rather than me having to sit around and think of everything I've thought about to do with summer or Starbucks, we can actually help people. And that is by constructing knowledge bases that allow us to navigate a broad set of ideas. So I'll just show you the interface and how this works. here's a video of someone brainstorming as many broad associations for summer as they can find. So it actually shows different meanings of summer. So this is like, okay, beach. Beach is an association. Within that, there are flip-flops. Oh, that's great. There's also different kinds of sandals, but there's also beach. So, beach umbrella, that's something, different, definitely related to sun. Beach ball, oh, that's another relationship with summer. Palm trees, classic. So let's go down like a totally different vein. How about like swimming pools and swimming stuff? So we got the goggles, we've got the swimsuit. Let's go to a totally different direction within summer. Here's the barbecue direction. So you can pick out the barbecue, you can, a couple different ones if you like. Oh, look at the barbecue tongs, the burgers that you'd actually make with that barbecue. Maybe want to go down one more path, I think. Okay, yeah, mowing the lawn, summer chore. Pick out some of those things. Air conditioning, things that are cold, ice cream, great. So you can see that this really just helps somebody explore their chains of thought and move to a new one when they want to pick a slightly different tack within summer. So that's great. So we've gotten, 14 of these very, very quickly, much faster than people can do on their own or with just searching the internet. Okay, so now we have a whole bunch of symbols. We want to be able to recombine them in multiple ways, because that's where a lot of innovation comes from, is this recombining in the proper order. So here we're going to have to isolate and classify the basic parts so that it's easier to recombine them. Here, the basic thing we're looking for is shape, obviously, and we want to put them together in ways that you can see both of them. So I'll just show you sort of how this works. Here's a human doing the actual annotation. Here's this Tabasco bottle, which is basically projected in 2D, a rectangle. So here's where that rectangle is. Human painstakingly do this, but this can be automated. And then also, so the Tabasco bottle is this rectangle, it's kind of cylinder. Also, the fire extinguishers. So here's where that cylinder is within the fire extinguisher. It's kind of that main part. We've got to cheat up a little bit, and you can see okay, this is the prototype. This is sort of getting the idea across of how these two objects might be recombined by just looking at the basic rectangular part of them. So we can automate partially, at least, this taking of parts and putting them back together. Once we have some of those prototypes, we really want to see, can they be improved? What are the secondary properties that we need? So here you see, obviously, you start off with the green Starbucks. And first, we're going to explore which silhouette we want to use, whether we want the sun or the Starbucks. Here, the sun doesn't make sense. They have the same silhouette, so we'll go with that. But then there's many different ways to blend the color. So here, computers sort of knows, okay, it's the yellow that you might want to take, not the white. And which way do you want? Do you want to blend the colors? Do you want to multiply the colors? Do you want to do a total replacement? You can sort of play with the sliders to get different levels of each blend. But it really allows you to see, here are all your options of the color property that you might want. Pick one. And here, this has allowed them to pick the yellow color replacement as a way to improve this blend. One more example of this is for oranges and winter. And you can see the naive blend sort of, okay, this is the two things that we want to combine and how we want to combine them. But this prototype is pretty terrible. So how can we improve this? So the first thing is it lets us pick which silhouette do we want. And now AI has gone in and be able to pick out those parts and automatically stitch some of them together. Now we're going to consider the colors again. So here we're looking for, a slight blend of the orange. Still, it's but we're missing those facial features. So we can use some computer vision to just have the person say, I want these features, and I want to put them back. So this is, in the end, the way they improve the blend. And it's a pretty big improvement over the original. So this process makes people 10 times better than without the system, because they can just make so many more. So without the system, people end up doing exactly what I said, just picking one idea and kind of trying to improve it by adding stuff onto it, which really doesn't work very well. And with VisiBlends, they just generate more prototypes and can pick a better one. Real teams have been using this at Columbia for student-led startups. So here is a drink, and they wanted to combine New York City and their drink. And so sort of built in New York is combining, and they use the skyscraper as being, something New York built. But they have lots of ideas, and they post these to Instagram all the time. It's about lemon and keeping cool, Lalo and time. We also did this for student publications about like COVID and what research is doing, so COVID and Investigate, but also for individual articles like a COVID book and about digital health. So just to recap, best way to have a good idea is to have a lot of ideas, but that process is a lot of work, and AI can make that easier by using knowledge bases to help you brainstorm multiple things, by finding features and combining them, and then by improving the secondary aspects of each design. Anyway, that is me, and I thank you very much.